Hey everybody, welcome to Simply Said 2, which is a backup channel, a separate channel. So, wanted to have this discussion. As you can see on the screen, it says median wealth of Black Americans will fall to zero by 2053, warns new report. The study predicts huge and growing gulf between white U.S. households and everyone else could be disastrous for future of America's middle class. And here's a photo of a family, Marcia Hamilton, with her 5 sons. So the mother here, she's got 5 sons. Article states, growing up in the projects of Baltimore in the 1980s, things like savings accounts, stocks, and bonds were completely foreign to Marcia Hamilton. Ask if her parents could have passed along some money to help her buy a car, go to school, or put into a house. She can't help but chuckle. Quote, no, that wasn't there. There was no wealth. My mother was working, she was providing. We weren't on the streets begging, but there was no money in terms of here you go. No money was passed down. End quote. Now, 48, Hamilton is on the path to a different reality, working as a medical office manager and earning her college degree. The mother of 5 manages to squelch away $50 a month by furiously clipping coupons and being extremely frugal. $50 is definitely not my goal, but it's all I can do with the money that's going out, Hamilton said. And it's working. A decade after she began working with a financial coach, she is on track to have a positive net worth by 2018. I'm so driven to do that. It's important to me. Now, this article was written 5 years ago, just so we're clear. But Hamilton is in the minority in execution, if not intention. A new report calculates that median wealth for Black families will fall to zero by 2053 if current trends continue. Latino Americans, who are also experiencing a sustained downward wealth slide, will hit zero about 2 decades later, according to the study by Prosperity Now and the Institute for Policy Studies. By 2020, median Black and Latino households stand to lose nearly 18 and 12% of their wealth they held in 2013, respectively, while median white household wealth increases by 3%, the report states. At that point, just 3 years from now, white households are projected to own 86 times more wealth than Black households and 68 times more wealth than Latino households. With the U.S. set to become, quote, majority minority by 2044, researchers say this spells major economic peril for the nation. If the racial wealth divide continues to accelerate, the economic conditions of Black and Latino households will have an increasingly adverse impact on the economy writ large because the majority of U.S. households will no longer have enough wealth to stake their claim in the middle class. The authors cite the legacy of discriminatory housing policies, an upside down tax system that helps the wealthiest households get wealthier, and the economic effects of mass incarceration as among the root causes for the discrepancy. The middle class didn't just happen by market forces, and the whiteness of the middle class didn't just happen by market forces. Both were intentional, said Derek Asante Muhammad, a senior fellow at Prosperity Now and one of the report's authors. Take home ownership, which has long been the primary means by which Americans of modest and middle class income are able to build generational wealth. After the broken promise of 40 acres and a mule to newly freed slaves, virtually nothing was done to endow Black Americans with a share of the wealth generated by centuries of slave labor. The same labor that, directly or indirectly, helped to build most of the wealth enjoyed by white Americans. So Black Americans started off generations behind, only to encounter the redlining and the racially restrictive housing covenants of the early to middle 20th century, which prevented the sale of many homes to Black Americans and isolated them together in communities that lost values as white residents fled to the suburbs. The majority of white Americans weren't middle class until the 1930s or 40s, Asante Muhammad told The Guardian. Then there was mass investment to create an American middle class, but it was a white American middle class. Programs such as the GI Bill, which offered returning World War II veterans generous lending terms to buy houses, helped turn the U.S. helped to turn excuse me, the U.S. into a home-owning, middle-class society from which Black Americans were functionally excluded. In this 2005 book, When Affirmative Action Was White, Ira Katznelson notes that of the first 67,000 mortgages insured by the GI Bill, fewer than 100 were taken out by non-white people. Recent economic crises have widened this wealth gap, according to the report, as communities of color took the brunt of the economic hit. Black median wealth has never recovered from the 2001 recession, nor Latino wealth from the 2008 financial collapse. White median wealth, on the other hand, was left unaffected in 2002 and began rebounding just 2 years after the speculative housing bubble began to implode. Unfortunately, home values don't come back in the same way in Black communities when things happen, said Althea Sanders Rainier, a financial coach and advisor in Baltimore, Maryland, where about 95% of her clients are Black. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, so here's the article here. I'll put the link in, but let's go ahead and just jump into it. So, no 40 acres and a mule. No. And at some point, you just have to be realistic, okay? Do I feel confident that, the country's going to do the right thing and pay reparations? No, the work is done. Blacks built the country. Trump gave you an applaud for that. It was noted. I haven't heard anything from Joey B. But that's beside the point. Everybody knows the history. What if you were to go and take people and have them just, hey, work and give you their check? You would come up too. So at some point, you have to face reality of what is. This system is highly advantageous to the majority here. It's not going to change. It's like the video I showed about the people in Chicago at the town hall meeting. And I believe the man's name is Tyrone. He appears to be an activist in the Chicago area. And he told the Latino man, oh, me first, right? Me first. Let's understand this here. People are here for resources. No one, despite your struggle, is going to take from them and give to you. It just doesn't work like that as a collective. It's not going to happen. So at some point, you have to realize, okay, here's what's going on. And I just think you have to come up with a plan to say, hey, guess what? We know the pitfalls that lie ahead of us. Try to avoid them. This here's a good example. And I applaud Miss Hamilton for, being very, very proactive. As you can see, they ask her if the parents could have passed along some money to help her buy a car, go to school, or put into a house. She can't help but chuckle. First of all, you said parents. Did you not recall in the article? She spoke about how her mother, okay, her mother, growing up in the projects, her mother worked very hard. I'm assuming to support the family, one income, one parent, one income. One parent, one income. She didn't say my parents. She said no, that wasn't there. This is her response. There was no wealth. My mother was working. She was providing. We weren't on the streets begging, but there was no money in terms of here you go. No money to pass down. So it sounds like to me, her mother, we haven't heard about a father. A father working, we didn't hear her say they're both working. She said my mother. So safe to assume her mother was the only one working, providing for the family. I don't know any woman that gets herself pregnant by herself. But if you notice, the same thing here. So she's trying to break the cycle. Her mother worked to support the family. Where's the daddy? Here it says she's got 5 sons. One, two, three, four, five. And there she is. Where's the father? Fatherless homes, a single parents working trying to make it. It is a guaranteed seat on the plane of poverty. You may have a few that can maybe, make something extraordinary happen. I've heard of a black woman, her husband died, 5 kids. She went to law school. Not everyone can do it. Had her church helping out, helping out with the children. Went to law school, got her law degree. There was a black woman on Section 8. She became an engineer. Only thing about that is that they penalized her because they said, hey, we're not showing you had any other income when you went to school and got your engineering degree. Therefore, you must have used the resources from the Section A, the welfare system that you were on, or you resided in the projects. And therefore, we're going to penalize you and you got to pay all the money back. You ought to applaud her. But see, they understand if you can keep a person's mind on a poverty train, guess what? They're going to go ahead and stay where they are. That's going to help the wealth gap. The kids will be more than likely raised in the streets. Somebody going to jail. That's to keep the wealth gap. So her mother, she still worked and provided. And look, she's 48 years old. She's doing the very same thing her mother did. Having to work and provide for 5 kids. Where's the father? And you wonder why I say not to carry the seed of poverty D. Her mother is doing the same. She's doing the very same thing her mother did. Why aren't the politicians or the so-called churches speaking against that? Don't want to offend anyone, so guess what? We're going to go ahead and just let the nonsense continue. Don't want to make anybody mad. But passing on generational poverty, to me, that's the part that's it's sad. So no one is saying, hey, let's stop the fatherless homes. Let's stop creating single mothers on a major scale. The politicians, the preachers, why aren't they saying that? It's not rocket science. You can see where it leads to. So it's things like that. If you can combat that, start a family, 2 incomes, you have a lesser chance of being in poverty. Now, it's not always easy. I definitely know that. But look at it this way. If one income can hold all this down, one income can hold all this down. You can have a man that only, you can have a other spouse. Let's say that other spouse, keep in mind, if one income can hold these 5 kids down, she's raised with 5 kids. Well, you can have a person. What if a person only makes 30,000 a year? Okay. What if a person only makes 30,000 a year? Let's say he may take home 22. Well, no offense intended. It's not rocket science. If one income can hold all this down, the other partner, if it is brought down 22 a year, keep in mind she's doing this by herself. So if there's no excuse, if the other partner only brought down $22,000 a year, guess what? That's money you can go ahead and put in the bank. I don't see why the hell you cannot. You got one income feeding all of these young men. She's holding it out with one check. A spouse, heaven forbid, we think in that terms. A father with a check, well, he only brings home after taxes 22 a year. Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and do a little math on that, okay? And I'm going to be the mathematician, so I'll get my calculator out. So if he only brings home 22,000 a year, let's say For gas and getting around, we're going to say minus we'll allow 7,000 for that, okay? That's $15,000. If you did that just for 5 years, 15,000 for 5 years, you got 75K. For 5 years, that's all it takes. So if she had a husband, again, if he just brought home 22,000 a year and said we're gonna spend, keep in mind, she's holding it all down. It's not rocket science. So if she can hold it all down and she has a backup income, if he just brings home 22,000 a year, we're gonna say allowance for 7, going back to work, we got what have you. You don't need a new car payment. That's for darn sure. If you just save 10,000 a year, it can be done. I don't see why the hell not. A man a mover. There was a man somewhere we know at least 5 times. A man was where. So if you just save 10,000 a year by his low paying job, out there 22 that he brings home, 10,000 times 5. In 5 years, you got $50,000. 5 sons and $50,000. But it takes discipline, the willingness to try, and people don't want to do that. That's one way to stop the wealth gap. Fatherless homes, guaranteed for a lot of people a pathway to poverty. Now, the other thing is, so I applaud her on her financial journey and I wish her well. But notice the mother worked and struggled. She has 5 sons, the same thing. Fatherless homes, housing. They have showed so many reports of disparities in housing. Pretty much, if it's Billy Bob, he can make less money, bad credit, the loan is guaranteed. So my whole point is, you automatically know what the issue is. It's not on a fair plane. This right here is no new information as far as the disparities in society. So why fall into the trap? Oh, mass incarceration. When you carry the seed of poverty D, that can lead into mass incarceration. So why keep on doing that? Waiting for someone to come and give you a playbook that's working for them, it's not going to help. Why would I give my plan to the neighbor? It's about resources, a competition for resources. So if we know, jeepers, carrying the seed of poverty D, or a chance a man is going to run off and leave with responsibility, why would you have that child by that man and end up on a struggle bus? I'm busy working 2 jobs trying to make it. The streets are raising your kids. Somebody going to jail. Why would you continue to feed that system? It's like driving a car, a stop sign. You're going to keep on going and keep on going. I'm not going to stop. And then wonder why you keep having your car crashed out. You wonder why. It's not hard to figure out. Might want to stop at that stop sign. It's common sense. No one's going to come and save us. You have to save yourself through decision making. Black wealth going to zero by 2053. Who cares? Who cares? Tell me who cares. I don't think the community cares. Why? Actions speak louder than words. This is a community that we can get along with everyone, but not with each other, especially when it comes to business. It's got to be some friction somewhere. A lot of times it's the customers, then at time you look up, it's the business owner. It's got to be a friction. Can't get along, but can get along with everybody else. Anybody can come into the community that's non-black and set up a business and do quite well. Wealth is by guarantee. All you got to do is show up, and they're going to show out and sure enough come. Might be a little drama, but you're guaranteed to get rich. But your own can't do it. Why? That friction, self-hatred. That's why I say it's going to fall to zero by this article by 2053. Who cares? The community doesn't care. Going to still carry the seed of poverty D. Going to still hate on each other. We fight each other on the job, in the streets, in the stores, in the malls, in the neighborhood, in the businesses, even on social media. You'll find a low self-esteem black person see somebody has some more followers than theirs and try to turn them down. At the end of the day, you're still your lonely behind self because all you have is that little job on YouTube. Try to turn them down, turn them down, turn them down. Black business owners gonna get robbed, get boycotted, even if you're professional, because we don't want to see that. Robbed, boycotted, steal from them. Heck, some of them get killed. That's why I say black wealth will fall to zero by 2053. Who cares? The community doesn't care. We already know what the men do when they get wealth. We already know why. They don't care. And it's the women too. Then you have black women trying to trade out another black woman. The jealousy, the self-hatred is real. That's why this here, who cares? I won't lose any sleep over it. Because you know why? Who cares? The community doesn't. It doesn't. You can make everybody else rich but your own. Something is wrong with you. They playing the cool, but you're playing super fool. Something is wrong with you. You have an internal self-hatred. You need an intervention. It's needed like yesterday. So business entrepreneurship, we don't want to hear about that. A lot of us hate black capitalists. The things I hear it's unbelievable. A lot of us hate capitalism when it's black hands at that has it going on, ingenuity. We don't like it. Why? Because you have internalized poverty and you associate you with poverty. You need an intervention. We don't love each other. We do see ourselves through the lens of white people. Why? It's very obvious in our actions, our interaction with each other. Again, from social media, from Twitter, from YouTube, always trying to tear something down like a bunch of fools. That's why I say it's going to be zero. Who cares? And then before this article was written, let's not even count your replacement is here in AI. You think? Let's not even count that. That, in my opinion, just moved it up. Actions speak louder than words. So again, black wealth will fall to zero by 2053. Who in the heck cares? Leave the BC, as they say, let them be. They don't care that the wealth is going to fall to zero by 2053. That's what's projected here. They don't care. And I say sooner because, again, you got the replacement in AI. But the community doesn't care. And we're going to see how this old adage, oh, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all... No, it's going to be a whole lot of financial fright. It's not going to be all right. So we know about who's making the decisions about home ownership, the banks. We know you can have good credit, make more money, and they've seen some turn now making six figures and Billy Bob sitting up here barely making 38 and that loan goes through. We know the men are not going to build for the women and children. You already know that. Why would a woman still sit up here to see the poverty? I don't know. We're passing down generational poverty. This lady here, just like her mother, obviously a single household provider, she did the same thing. We're passing down generational poverty because guess what? We don't want anyone to tell us anything. And as I said before, I say again, who cares? The community doesn't care. As a collective, my opinion, they don't care. So let me know what you all think. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment. This is Simply Said 2 on YouTube, and I'm out.